So now we had a lot of debates this offseason of who exactly was going to be prioritized with contract extensions. And a lot of us had different thoughts, saying that Benford needed to be prioritized. Perhaps some of you said it was Khalil Shakir, but a large majority of us have said James Cook, without a doubt, we need to pay this man $15 million because that is precisely what he requested on Instagram Live about a month or so ago. And fast forward into present day, and out of all of the players that we speculated could potentially get a contract extension, James Cook appears to be the odd man out. So this now raises a question. Are we going to see a holdout from James Cook? Will he refuse to show up to mandatory minicamp? Will he refuse to show up for training camp? And the biggest question, will he actually sit out in the 2025 season if he ultimately does not get the contract that he so desires? Now, folks, I feel like that I've addressed this quite a few times, but I've noticed a trend for the past couple of episodes that I have put out. I feel like once I move over to my Q&A segment, everybody wants to talk about this topic. Everybody has their 2 cents on whether or not that James Cook should be paid this offseason. So I feel like we might as well nip it in the butt and talk about it together. On today's edition of the Dom Mafia Report, we are going to unpack exactly what I think is going to happen in this situation, whether or not he is going to hold out, and more importantly, something that has been thrown out into the ether. Dan, could James Cook potentially be trade capital since we are going into the NFL draft? Man, I am so excited to dive into that. Folks, welcome to another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. If you are listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for tuning in. I ask that if you were enjoying yourself, certainly consider following me and also consider leaving a rating and review, and also consider hopping onto YouTube as well, because folks, I do these episodes live twice a day, Monday through Friday, and you will notice that I typically spend the first 10 to 15 minutes discussing the topic at hand, and then afterwards I transition over to my live chat community where I allow them to take control of the conversation. So if you ever want to be a live viewer and want to contribute into the Q&A segment that is a part of each and every single show, highly recommend you go find me on YouTube, Dan Mitchell. But hey, man, listen, James Cook. James Cook. Now, this is probably one of the most polarizing players on this roster. I guarantee you I have yet to look at the live chat, but I promise you that there are at least 2 different groups that are arguing amongst themselves because it is really that much of a conflicting opinion. $15 million. Does a running back like James Cook deserve $15 million? And before I give you my thoughts, because I'm pretty sure I've gone on record before saying that I would not be putting holes in my drywall if there was breaking news that came out that James Cook ended up getting, $13-14 million AAV. Because many of you know that I am a massive proponent of trying to educate people on not hyper obsessing over the annual average value of contracts. I think a lot of it is silly. You should not be upset about it because what truly matters, in my opinion, is guaranteed money, right? But outside of that, let's take a look at what James Cook, from a market perspective, truly goes on ahead and he deserves. I think once you end up looking at the upper echelon running backs in the NFL, you have Saquon Barkley, who is currently the highest paid running back in the NFL due to his most recent contract. When this news first came to light, a lot of people were saying, oh my God, there's no way that James Cook deserves more money than Saquon Barkley. And that was at a point where he was getting paid pennies, especially compared to the value that he brought to Philadelphia last year. I want to say prior to his recent extension, he was making around $12.5 million. But now he is getting paid about 20, right? Which I think is truly what his value is. Massive moving piece for the Philadelphia Eagles offense in 2025. Well-deserved. Second goes Christian McCaffrey. He's at about $19 million. I think San Francisco 49ers fans are even entertaining moving him from their roster because he just has not proven to be a healthy piece and or a reliable running back. But then you start looking at some other running back contracts, which I am going to pull up exactly for us while we go through. And 15 million per year, I would say, is significant. But at the same time, it is not. Largely because I think that there are very few scenarios where teams ultimately end up screwing themselves by paying a running back, especially compared to quarterback contracts that just do not work out, or say, for example, a defensive end contract that does not work out. And when you look at how the NFL has been growing year by year, this previous year we saw the cap explode $30 million. More than likely, it is going to do the exact same thing in 2026 as well. And that's largely thanks to all of the streaming services. And now that the NFL makes us pay for 45 different streaming services so that we could see the with each and every single game in the NFL. But 15 million is not that crazy if you were to ask me. Now, what I have done is I have ultimately ended up pulling up all of the contracts in which that we see right here, right? So, number one, when it comes into AAV, and I think that we can have a pretty good understanding of where we see James Cook's value at right here. We have Saquon Barkley, who is the number one in the NFL at 20.6, followed by Christian McCaffrey at 19. And then there is a significant drop off. The third highest paid AAV guy on this list is Jonathan Taylor at 14, followed by Alvin Kamara, who is going to be turning 30 this year. And then also Josh Jacobs, who is at about $12 million per year, followed by Aaron Jones, who is at 10. Connor is at 9.5. I can look at a few of these names here, folks, and I could tell you what I would feel comfortable with. I would probably put James Cook over Aaron Jones as far as youth, as far as production. He is 25. He's going to be, I believe, 26 in September and then 27 in 2026 by itself. And I also think that he brings a bit more to the table than Alvin Kamara, who is about to be reaching 30 years old when it comes into it. Now, I think the biggest question is, what does Spot Track specifically believe that James Cook is worth? Let's take a look here. We're pulling it up. And Spot Track has James Cook's market value at $10.2 million. 4 years, $40.8 million. Ranks at 25, sort of 27. And what I love about what Spot Track does with these contracts is that they compare production based off of age of when the particular running back was signed. I wish they accounted a bit more in with how the NFL salary cap is increasing year in after year out. But some of the comparisons that Spot Track believes James Cook is closely comparable to is a Josh Jacobs, is a David Montgomery, is a Tony Pollard, and is a Saquon Barkley. Surprisingly enough, this is not me, folks. This is Spot Track. But I think when we look at this number, I think this makes sense to me. But that's not what he wants, right? That is not what James Cook wants. James Cook wants something entirely different. He wants $15 million per year. And that would put him above the Jonathan Taylors of the world, and that would make him the third highest paid running back in the NFL. Well, I can tell you, I genuinely do not believe that the AAV or the funny money metric, which I like to sort of slap the label on, is not what's important to James Cook. I think what is important to James Cook is guaranteed money. Like, we laugh at the Stephon Diggs contract, right? From the New England Patriots. Oh my God, it was $69 million. That is absolutely insane. But then when you look at his total guarantees and see the fact that the Patriots could walk away from Stephon Diggs after year one with very limited cap implications in the first place, I think that's something where Buffalo would more than likely be able to sort of accommodate. But again, this Buffalo Bills team, while we were in a bit of a better financial situation than we were last year, still pretty tight. And at the beginning of the offseason, where we were all sitting and trying to have conversations of, okay, who's a priority? Who needs to be extended? I was leading the pack almost by trying to say, hey, you know what? I honestly think that we're only going to be able to extend 4, and we're going to have to make 2 very difficult decisions. But then we saw Christian Benford ended up getting a contract just a couple of days ago, and Brandon Beane once again tends to wow us by being able to afford some of our homegrown talent. And might I say, at absolute steals all across the board. But unfortunately, where it stands, right? This Buffalo Bills team is at an estimated about $6 to $7 million per cap spend this year in 2025 after the free agency period that we had already had. And one thing I always like to remind everybody is, hey, you know what? We need $5 million for this draft class that is incoming. So realistically, we have about $2 million. And an extension, right, for James Cook, an extension would probably cost a bit more than $2 million. Where it stands, James Cook is due to get paid $5 million in 2025. That is his base salary. So anybody trying to say, oh my God, he's criminally underpaid, like we're looking at this guy, so like he's the most disrespected person at your job who has not had a raise in 30, 40 years. $5 million is pretty significant, especially for a player that was drafted in the second round, did not have a fifth-year option, and hit each and every single one of his escalators. So as long as James Cook plays, he's making about $5.2 million. But this is all depending on whether or not that he will play. So now let's make a transition and let's discuss what the hell is going to happen with James Cook. Here is my theory. My theory is no, I do not believe that he is going to be traded. I just don't, right? Somebody asked me this in yesterday's episode when it came to the Q&A segment. And they're like, Dan, would it be possible for the Buffalo Bills to trade James Cook for a draft pick? Or would it be possible for us to trade James Cook so that we could move up in the NFL draft? And I said this, if we were talking about any other year where the running back class was maybe even a little weaker, then sure, most definitely. I think that we probably would be able to gain a third or a fourth round pick, straight up swap, like maybe include a fifth, some sort of package like that. But when you look at all the prospects that are in this class, this is being noted and coined as one of the best running back classes from a talent perspective, and a wide variety at that. There is no way in hell. There is absolutely no way in hell that a team is going to send over a third and or a fourth round pick when the running back position is that deep. Maybe say that you're pulling teeth and saying, yeah, most definitely we could send over James Cook and then we'll also send you over a couple of fourths. It would not be a straight swap for a third round pick and that running back and James Cook. It would not. So I don't really think that there's much value for a running back that is currently 25 years old. He's about to be 26, has only had 1 year of quality production, and he ultimately ended up doing it behind one of the best run blocking offensive lines in all of football. James Cook, in my opinion, is in the perfect situation for his career because he is in a running back by committee unit. He's a first, he's a second down sort of back. He is not required to block because of the way the Buffalo Bills run a lot of jumbo packages, the 6-man on the offensive line. So I think a lot of NFL teams would be a bit skeptical and cautious if by making a move like that. So trading is completely out of the picture, if you were to ask me. Second possibility would be that he ultimately ends up getting his extension a bit closer to training camp. And so I'll tell you right now, when it comes into any sort of holdout, I promise you, as you are watching, as you are listening, that he will not be at mandatory minicamp. And we will have another episode, and I will have another venting hour with my live audience over here on YouTube about their thoughts with the whole situation. And then there's going to be a couple of months, and there's going to be a lot of spatter about, oh my God, he's not there. We're absolutely screwed. First off, we would not be screwed at all. Like there would be zero change whatsoever as far as the production and the expectations of this team. But then training camp is going to start, and James Cook is going to miss out, I would say, probably on the first week. And then afterwards, he will show up. And so, of course, reluctantly, but he will be ready and able to play by week 1. And he will have himself a hell of a season in one of the best environments that a running back like himself could be placed in. That's just how it is. Now, many of you are worrying that his holdout could continue into the year of 2025. And again, I don't know what is going through James Cook's mind. I don't know what his personal finances are like. And I don't know how he's going to play this situation. But when I look at all of this, say that I'm James Cook, I am doing whatever I can to stand in front of the mirror and have this conversation with myself. Look, I am owed $5.2 million in 2025, but that is strictly pursuant to me suiting up for the Buffalo Bills and playing all weeks of the season, week 1 through week 18, being on the roster, doing my thing. So do I really want to sit out 2025 and not take a dime, not have a single source of income whatsoever? Folks, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but we can go ahead and take a look. All right. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull this up so we have a better understanding. With his contract so far, he has made $4.6 million in his career. That has been money that has been paid to him. It's in his bank account. That is his net worth. And he is due $5.2 million in 2025. So he is about to double the money that he has made in his entire career just by playing one season for the Buffalo Bills. Folks, I can promise you this. I can promise you this. He is not missing out on this $5.2 million. It would make absolutely zero sense, especially once you end up looking at the fact that he is 25 years old. He will be 26 by the time September 25th rolls around. So say, for example, that James Cook wants to miss out on doubling his income in the NFL in just 1 year of playing in one of the best opportunities, one of the best environments a running back could potentially play in. I just don't see it. Like, he appears to be a very intelligent guy to me. Like, he does. I don't think that it is a wise financial decision to do that. And then once you start adding on even more, let's talk about this, right? He's going to be 26 next year. He had a hell of a damn season, right? His first 2 years, we can go ahead and take a look at this. His first 2 years were absolutely nothing compared to his 2024 season. I do suppose he had more rushing yards in 2023. We can give him that. His rookie season was about half, but we all know how Sean McDermott likes to baby sort of rookies. And God forbid that you fumble the football, you're not going to see the field for the next 3 to 4 games. But I'm not necessarily sure that he would be able to get close to what he is looking for in $15 million per year, either from the Buffalo Bills and or any other NFL team, when he would be 27, 1 year older, 1 year completely removed from football, and he has only ever had success in one particular system. I just don't see this doing him any favors whatsoever. So at the end of the day, I do think that James Cook is a very intelligent individual. And so I think that, yes, he's probably going to scare Bills Mafia for a little bit. He's not going to show up to mandatory minicamp. I think it's going to be about a week or two throughout training camp. But rest be assured, he will be a starter by week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. There is just way too much going against him right now, right? Like, the Buffalo Bills have all the leverage in this situation. And say, for example, he goes out there and he puts up an absolute monstrous performance in 2025, which I am anticipating that he will. He's going to get the bag next year, whether or not that it's from Buffalo or whether or not that it's from any other team in pending free agency. I feel like a lot of us understand this right now, and there's no shock value of looking around some of the NFL contracts. In fact, I'm very curious. Let me know your thoughts. So, with either in the live chat or you can send me over a post on X/ formerly Twitter and let me know your thoughts on this. But I feel like there was a lot of shock value when it came into the top 5 running back contracts in the NFL. I think that just goes to show you how the league is transitioning, where unless you are the upper echelon of upper echelon, you're not getting paid big bucks unless you're that dude. So, in summary, no, I do not believe James Cook is going to be traded. It is just a terrible time when you have one of the best running back classes in the NFL draft staring you in the face. Yes, I do believe that he will hold out briefly in mandatory minicamp, in training camp. I don't believe that Brandon Beane is going to come to the table with an extension this year. He will play sort of otherwise because he's owed $5.2 million in 2025. He's not getting paid that unless he plays. And I think he's going to have a hell of a season. And then I think he gets the bag next year. Do I think Buffalo is going to pay him? That is still left to be up to debate. But regardless, somebody will pay him the contract that he is looking for. And who knows? If the NFL salary cap continues to climb the way that it has been climbing, he could get 17 a year. Who knows? But I think we're going to be seeing James Cook play on the final year of his rookie deal. Damn, folks. Listen, I had to discuss this largely because, again, I have been doing a variety of different episodes. I've been unpacking different draft prospects. I've been unpacking so many other topics surrounding our favorite team. And every single time that I transitioned over to the Q&A segment, I had 20 plus questions on James Cook. So we had to discuss it. There was no ways about it. But folks, as I have said, how my shows are lined up, I discuss the topic for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I transition over to my live chat in a Q&A segment, and I react to some of the takes that I hear in the live chat. So say, for example, you ever want to catch this live, and specifically I'm talking to people that are listening on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Certainly consider coming on over to YouTube. So that way you could be a part of our live Q&A segment, which we are about to dive into here shortly, but not before we give a giant shout out to our sponsor today. And that just so happens to be William Mattar. Folks, if you are ever hurt in a car, you better call William Mattar, #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. I would not wish a car accident that causes injury on my worst enemy. But unfortunately, if you ever find yourself in that situation, it is so imperative to make sure that you have the right representation, and look no further than William Mattar. I know you guys are super familiar with him, especially those of you that are in the Western New York area. Phone number is on the screen, 844-444-4444. Shout out to William Mattar for sponsoring today's episode. Let's see what the chat has to say. First statement comes in from Bill Karcher. What's going on, Bill? Hope all is well, my friend. He said, we talked about this, Dan. Being on the Bills made him so far. He should keep going, and all will come his way. He is smart, plays smart. I do believe that he is a very intelligent young man. I do. And like we pointed out, his career earnings, he has made $4.6 million in his career. That is money that has actually been paid to him. I do not believe that if he does not get a contract extension, he is going to say goodbye to $5.2 million. He would be doubling his NFL income with just a single year. And all he needs to do is suit up and play ball. I do not think there are way too many downsides of sitting out for the 2025 season. Again, you are not going to double the income that you've brought in for your entire career, that you've earned, by the way. He earned that. That $5.2 million is not just something that you see for every single non-first round prospect. You need to hit your escalators. Like, you need to absolutely be a boss and hit each and every single one of your metrics in order for it to be that big payday. I don't believe he's going to miss out on that. I really don't. I do think that it would not be smart from his end, right? And then he not only wouldn't get paid for an entire year, then what would happen is that he would have 1 full year off of ball when he is about to turn 27 years old. What is that telling these other NFL organizations about, oh my God, yeah, like we're definitely going to pay you $17.5 million per year. But prove to us that you can put up the exact same sort of production that you did in 2024 under a completely new system. So again, I think that that's likely what's going to happen. We have Dexy Gaming. He's coming in with the next statement. He says, Dan, James Cook and a 2026 third to the Niners for CMC and Juwan Jennings. Tell me this wouldn't be a Bills move. We like to give injured players a chance to ball out for us. Plus, I really like Jennings. I don't think... Oh, man. I think that the only way that that would happen would be on Madden 25/Madden 26. Respectfully, of course. Like I said, I don't think that us going and trying to take on a Christian McCaffrey contract, which there's not even an out until the following offseason, I think that's completely off of the board. And as far as free agents for the Bills, it's done. Like I said right now, and this is just an estimate because we have still yet to see some of these contract extensions that we have made be finalized and put right against the cap. But in estimation of where Buffalo is right now, single digit millions, and $5 million of which needs to be invested in the draft class. So as far as taking on any veteran contracts right now, I think the Buffalo Bills are done outside of a couple of glorified camp bodies, if you know what I mean. We have Jesse Lenny is coming in from X. Jesse, I sincerely hope all is well. Thank you so much for your contribution here. I think if Cook has a big season, he may want more than $15 million a year or more guaranteed money. And that is exactly what is going to happen, right? Because from his perspective, that is what he should do. He should go out there and show the world, all right, watch me put up this production one more time. And in my opinion, based off of how the salary cap continues to grow significantly with each and every single year, somebody will pay him $15 million next year. I don't believe somebody would pay him $15 million next year and more if he decides to sit out of the entire game of football for a year. I just don't. I just don't think that that would be a smart business decision. Maybe the Cowboys would do it, but that's about it. Joshy, trade idea. The Cowboys receive James Cook, Matt Milano, 2024 4th-round pick. Bills receive CeeDee Lamb, 2024 2nd-round pick, and a 2025 6th-round pick. It's not going to happen unless, of course, you are loading that onto Madden 25. Sports Gamer fan, I'd trade Cook for maybe a good defensive tackle or a good corner if he holds out. Folks, I don't think James Cook is going to be traded because, number one, I don't think that anybody is going to want to bring in a running back who wants $15 million per year when you have one of the deepest running back classes in the NFL. It just doesn't make sense. Like, this running back class is deep all the way down to the 5th, dare I say the 6th round. Nobody is going to trade for a running back with how good this class is, especially a running back that wants a contract around $15 million per year. I promise you that. Like, that would be a very financially irresponsible move on any sort of organization at this point. Chris S. has come in. Okay. He said that I have changed my position. Pay Cook. What's a couple of $1 million per year between friends? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So again, I hate annual average value. I hate it. It is a financial metric that really confuses people. If, for example, his contract was close to $15 million per year, I want to see the guaranteed money, right? Give him the opportunity to earn the full amount of the contract. Say, for example, we wanted to do a $45 million deal, $15 million annual average salary, but we guarantee about 30 of it. That's 2 years basically, and we could walk away before year 3 if, for example, that his production is just not there with very limited cap implications. That would be a beautiful number to me. And that would make a lot of you happy as well, right? Because that would get you to around 10 million. If, for example, you see a $15 million per year contract type situation, make it $30 million guaranteed. And in retrospect, that's about $10 million a year, at least, which you are contractually obligated to regardless. Then I'm a happy guy. Then I am a happy guy. So, biggest piece of information I hope everybody walks away with: do not look at AAV and do not hyper focus over that, because it is a silly, silly number. We have Carvin Joseph is coming in saying James Cook would just be hurting himself if he holds out this season. If he does hold out, then trading him may be an option. If it was my choice, I would pay him the money he wants. He earned it to me. Scott Frazier has come in with a statement here. Great running back draft class. Trade him, draft 2, especially besides our offensive line, and a great draft class, or franchise him next. So it's interesting because, yes, I understand, right? Like, you have made a great point that this is a deep running back class in the upcoming NFL draft. But literally with every other single NFL organization knows that too. I don't think that a team is going to willfully say, yeah, most definitely, we're going to take James Cook from you and pay him $15 million a year and not draft a running back, right? That's why there's kind of like a middle road. It's not even so much that I think James Cook does not have value, but I feel like a lot of NFL organizations are much rather going to draft a running back from this class rather than take on a guy who wants $15 million per year. They'd much rather sign a running back that's super talented, young as hell, 20, 21 years old, and pay him on a rookie deal. That's largely what it's looking like. That's largely what it is looking like. Jay-Way, tell Cook to play or sit out. The Bills already have a replacement on the roster. See, I can tell you this. We do have a lot of talent in this room. And whether or not that you want to give the credit to the running backs themselves, or say you want to give the credit right to the Joe Brady play calling / the offensive line play, it's fine. But I do think we would be fine. XO Put has come in. If James can just ball out again, he can get a new contract next season. But as much as I want him to care more about winning, can't complain when he wants the money. It's no different from anybody that's in the world of work, right? And so we all want raises, ladies and gentlemen. We all want a larger salary in our day-to-day work. And I'm also willing to bet that quite a few of us are pretty vocal about it as well. If, for example, we believe that we are being not fairly compensated. We have Proco has come in with a statement. Maybe we change the ratio of throwing or running in favor of the air attack. See, one thing that I think is pretty funny is that people have been discrediting how good Ray Davis was last year. So I feel like people forget because he really didn't have a lot of snaps, but he took advantage of those snaps and he had some crazy games, especially when we ended up transitioning and he had the majority of the snaps, which was a very limited sample size, but he did very well. Same thing with Ty Johnson. We just signed him to a 2-year extension and he has 1 year fully guaranteed. So that's kind of my thing, right? This James Cook situation has been very polarizing for me because I find myself right in the middle, right? First off, I don't agree with the people saying, oh my God, we need to pay him whatever he wants, because I think that's disrespecting the talent that we have on this roster, the offensive line coaching, the offensive coordinator that we have. I also think that it's disrespecting the ability for our quarterback, who we know that is truly the face of our offense. It's not if James Cook wasn't on this roster, the Buffalo Bills wouldn't have a chance. It's if Josh Allen was not on this roster, the Buffalo Bills wouldn't have a chance. We've shown you, and he has shown you year in and year out, that he is the focal point. He is the reason that we win. So that's my thing. Spidey Mun, y'all wild for wanting to get rid of James Cook. Hey, listen, it is a polarizing topic. Spin is coming and saying, Dan, it's not the guaranteed money that affects the AAV. It's the incentives that allow it to look more than it really is. Guarantees pretty much determine the actual length of the contracts. Not necessarily, Spin. Not necessarily. Walter S., I just don't get how people just assume we can move on from Cook without a hitch when Cook is a large reason why we were able to go the everybody eats approach. And let me read that again. We have Walter S. I just don't get how people just assume we can move on from Cook without a hitch when Cook is a large reason why we were able to go the everybody eats approach. But here's the deal, right? And plus, listen. So I love James Cook, and I think that he's one of the perfect running backs to fit into our system. I think he is a perfect addition to this team. I do. And I cannot wait to watch him play in 2025. I really cannot, because he will. He will, right? But it's very difficult to speak to that in an absolute. Because based off of advanced metrics, yards per carry, what if Ray Davis had the exact same amount of snaps as Cook? / what if Ty Robinson had the exact same amount of snaps? Problem is, we just don't know. And the reason why he looks so good, why James Cook looks so good on the stat sheet, was largely because he had the most carries. So who's to say? Who's to say that he is that imperative? Still like him. Still want him to dominate carries this year. But I just like playing devil's advocate. We have David Abbott. Hello, Dan. I would like to know your expectations for the next season regarding Dwayne Carter. You have Javon Solomon, Derek Forrest, and Jamarcus Ingram. David Abbott, great question, man. I appreciate you coming in. So Carter is a solid depth piece when it comes into Ed Oliver. He is a 3-tech guy. He is very similar size to an Ed Oliver. So I do see him taking a step in the right direction. He was injured for a small portion of the season, which I think sort of hindered his development, but I have high expectations for him. As far as Solomon, I hope and pray. I hope and pray that he becomes the guy that I believe that he was. He was my draft crush. He was my draft crush last year. 5th round, he led all of college football in sacks. His size profile is a bit of a concern, and he hasn't had enough snaps to really demonstrate that he can take that next step, but I'm very optimistic, and I hope so, because I love Solomon. And nothing would make me pump my chest more than saying, okay, Solomon, he's the future. You have Derek Forrest. I'm intrigued, right? Like, he played very well in Washington prior to Dan Quinn taking over. Dan Quinn ended up phasing him out because he ran an entire different system. And then as far as Ingram, he's quality depth. So right in my eyes, I think that he would be above in the depth chart so I think that he would be right above in the depth chart to Dane Jackson. But obviously, we're going to be having that conversation a tad later. And incentives are also broken up to likely to be earned and unlikely. If likely, it counts the current years. Unlikely to the future season cap hit if hit. Doseby Gaming. Absolutely, my friend. Doseby Gaming. Shout out Dose of Dion, our Lions contributor. What's going on, man? Hope all is well. We have Joshua Archer is coming in and saying the Bills hold all the leverage, the rookie contract, and then franchise tag him at $13 million for a year. So the thing is that I don't really see the Buffalo Bills exercising a franchise tag. We haven't done it since 2016. I think it's just not something in Brandon Beane's arsenal. However, I would be pretty intrigued, man. Da Vinci's Demons. I don't trust Ray Davis. Cook proved he can play wisely. losing his wise approach isn't going to be good. Why exactly don't you trust Ray Davis? It's pretty tough because when you end up looking at advanced metrics, his yards per carry were there. Solid player when it comes into receptions. But we'll see. Oh, my man Dan, and this is my boy Doseby Gaming. My man Dan, I benched a quick 34 pounds yesterday. I'm gonna be a problem soon, bro. Dude, listen. So I told you when we were at the Senior Bowl together that we should have went to the gym in the morning. Man, listen, it's gonna happen, my friend. It's gonna happen. I want all the boys to be absolutely jacked. You know what I'm saying? That's what we are going for. Shout out Troy, man. Shout out my boy Troy. Tony Capalla has come in and said, just draft a new running back and call it a day. He can go wherever he wants next year, and we will get a comp pick. So I'm actually good on drafting a running back. So I really am. Regardless of what happens to James Cook, right? Because like I said, like we have like 10 picks. Like we could probably only roster about 6 to 7 players, if that. Kind of don't want to waste a pick on a running back. Just to be completely honest with you. I don't like find it valuable at all. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know. Folks, so I have to go on ahead and give a giant shout out here to everybody listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So again, guys, I have recently started uploading all of my shows as an audio version. And what I want to start doing is, so eventually I'm probably going to begin putting out an audio only sort of episode. It might be on Friday afternoons. It might be on Saturday mornings, a wide variety of different places. But for those of you that are watching on YouTube right now, if you can do me a giant favor, if you could go follow me on Spotify, and if, for example, you rock with the show, only if you rock. If not, then just completely ignore me. I'm not going to be asking you guys to do something you don't want to do. But go on ahead. Please go on ahead and follow me over on Spotify. Leave a rating and review. And get ready for some quality content on that side of things. Like normally what I do, guys, is that I typically do all of this on YouTube, and then afterwards I edit it and I upload it onto audio platforms. Again, I'm thinking about putting all of this on an audio sort of only episode on Fridays, Saturdays. We'll figure it out. But do me a favor and hit that link that is currently pinned at the top of this live chat right here, and go follow me. And if you can, leave a rating and review. Helps me out tremendously. And say, for example, that you do not use Spotify. I believe I am also on every other podcasting network. Thank you so much, man. You are the best. Sure thing, Dan. Sports Gamer Fan comes on in. Senke. Last statement, and then I'm going to have to run here, guys. Middle of the pack, O-line, and also Cook has single-handedly won games. Cook proves every year that AFC championships was Cook's to win. Staff took him out, kind of why we have these results. I'm sorry, but that is just untrue. A middle-of-the-pack line is crazy. That is absolutely crazy. We have been a top 5 offensive line in 2024 for 2 years. Maybe back in the day we had some offensive line issues, but make no mistake. Last year we were talking about an offensive line that was top 10 in run blocking and top 3 in pass protection as well. So like we can definitely chill out on that fake news here. That's for sure. Ken, and so I give you a 10. Your show is great. Ken, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Dan, Kenneth Walker is a free agent next season. Let Cook play this season out and sign Walker next season. We had the second best O-line and run blocking. Thank you, Spin. That's my guy right there. You know what, dude? Like, Spin's such a wild card. You know what I mean? Like, he comes in at me sometimes hard, but then sometimes he comes in for backup. I love it. It's basically a toxic relationship, but I love my boy Spin. That's for damn sure. Bill716. Dan, I think the opposite, where we should draft a back every year, maybe every other year. Same with corner, edge, and receiver. I do think we should draft a back this year. Maybe. It just depends. It just depends. Have you thought about doing Patreon? Weston Brewster. Well, Weston, I will tell you what. We do have a Patreon for Roundtable Sports. If, for example, you are not familiar with Roundtable Sports, that is it's my podcast network where we end up putting together a bunch of divisional rivals for a weekly debate show. So we have an NFC West roundtable, we have an AFC East roundtable, and we have a Patreon in that metric. I do not have a Patreon for myself. I did for a while, but right now we only have one for Roundtable Sports. I would like that either. We have Robert has come in and says, I don't believe James Cook will hold out. It's not to his benefit. Everything favors the Buffalo Bills. And last but not least, we got Ken. Think they should keep James Cook and lock him into a 3-year contract. Man, we'll see. We'll see. But folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. Shout out to everyone that tuned in on YouTube. Please do me a favor. Smash that like button if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so already. It's the easiest way to show love over here on YouTube. If you are listening on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, if you enjoyed the ride, just do me a favor and leave a rating and review. And also consider coming on over to YouTube so you could be a part of our live chat Q&A segment each and every single episode. Thank you guys so much. So I will see you a bit later on Fourth and Forever, our daily NFL news show over on the Roundtable Sports Network. And I may be live a little later this afternoon for a mock draft, depending on how I feel. Thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Peace.